A man stands at the edge of death, his body writhing in a pit of serpents. Venom burns through his veins. Yet he does not scream. He does not beg. Instead, he laughs in the face of kings, of death, of the gods themselves. His final words are a prophecy of vengeance, a promise of war. This is Ragnar Lothbrok, the greatest Viking of them all. Ragnar Lothbrok. The name itself is thunder. For some, he was a man of flesh and blood, a farmer turned king who carved his way into history. For others, he was a myth, a character forged in the fire of Norse sagas. But whether real or legend, Ragnar represents everything the Viking Age was: ambition, bloodshed, exploration, and destiny. Over the next minutes, we will trace his epic journey, from his mysterious origins to his rise as a feared king, from his daring raids across England and Paris, to his brutal death in the Snake Pit. And beyond that, the legacy of his sons, who carried Ragnar's fury across the world. This is not just history. This is legend. Who was Ragnar Lothbrok? The truth is cloaked in mystery. The sagas describe him as the son of a Swedish king, Sigurd Ring, and they tell of his strange leather breeches, hardened with tar, which earned him the name Lothbrok. But historians argue his story is a fusion of several Viking warlords whose deeds were too great to be forgotten. Still, the sagas agree on one thing: Ragnar was different. Born into a world of war and survival, Ragnar refused to settle for the life of a farmer. He dreamed of sailing beyond the known seas, of venturing west where no Viking had dared. Imagine the courage it took in that age: no maps, no guarantees of survival, only faith in one's destiny. Ragnar's hunger for greatness burned from the very beginning. Ragnar's ambition found its first test in England. At the time, Anglo-Saxon England was divided into small kingdoms, rich with monasteries that held gold and silver, and guarded only by priests. When Ragnar's ships appeared on their shores, they brought terror with them. The chronicles describe Viking longships gliding out of the mist like dragons, their sails blood-red, their warriors howling like wolves. Ragnar struck hard and fast. He was not satisfied with coastal villages. He pushed deeper, taking risks others feared. These raids were not random. They were calculated. Ragnar sought not only wealth but also reputation. Every victory made his name grow louder across the sea. To the English, Ragnar Lothbrok became the nightmare that came from the north. With gold filling his coffers and warriors filling his ranks, Ragnar rose quickly. No longer a farmer, he became Earl of Kattegat, a position of power and respect. But Ragnar was not just a brute with an axe. He was a strategist. He built faster ships. He tested new tactics. And unlike many Viking leaders who ruled through fear, Ragnar inspired loyalty. Men followed him not because they were forced to, but because they believed he was destined for greatness. His enemies, however, multiplied. Rival earls and kings saw his rise as a threat. Betrayals simmered, alliances shifted. Yet Ragnar, with cunning and ruthlessness, always stayed one step ahead. Still, even the strongest leaders carry a heavy burden. And for Ragnar, that burden would grow heavier within his own family. Ragnar's family was as legendary as his battles. His first wife, Lagertha, was no ordinary woman. She was a shield maiden, a warrior of unmatched courage. Together they fought side by side, their partnership a bond of steel and blood. But fate tore them apart. Ragnar's path led him to a Slag, a woman of noble descent, said to be the daughter of the dragonslayer Sigurd. With her, Ragnar fathered sons whose names would echo for centuries. Bjorn Ironside, Ivar the Boneless, Hvitserk, Sigurd Snake in the Eye. Each child carried Ragnar's fire, but each was shaped differently. Some would become kings. Some would become conquerors. And some would become feared monsters. Yet even within his household, loyalty was fragile. Ragnar's ambition often clashed with family, and betrayals from within cut deeper than any sword. Ragnar's legend reached its peak in 845, when he set his sights on Paris. Paris, the jewel of the Frankish Empire, stood behind mighty walls, guarded by rivers and armies. To attack it was madness. To conquer it was impossible. But Ragnar saw only opportunity. With a fleet said to be 120 ships, Ragnar sailed boldly up the Seine. The Franks, terrified, scrambled to defend their capital. The siege that followed was brutal. Arrows darkened the skies. Fire consumed towers. The clash of steel echoed for miles. But Ragnar was not just a warrior. He was a master of fear. Some accounts tell us he feigned illness, pretending to be near death. The Franks, eager to see him gone, brought him into the city, where he rose again, laughing, and led his men to victory. The city surrendered, not through defeat, but through payment. Ragnar forced Paris to pay him a ransom of thousands of pounds of silver and gold. The empire bled to buy peace. Ragnar had done the impossible. But even the greatest warriors cannot outrun fate. In his later years, Ragnar's ambition led him back to England. But age had weakened him. His armies were smaller. His once unstoppable luck had begun to falter. Captured by King Aella of Northumbria, Ragnar faced a death designed to terrify his people. He was thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. The serpents struck again and again, their fangs sinking deep. But Ragnar, even in agony, refused to surrender his spirit. He laughed. He sang of his deeds. And with his final breath, he delivered a prophecy that chilled his captors. How the little pigs will grunt when they hear how the old boar suffered. It was a promise. His sons would come. And vengeance would follow. Ragnar's death ignited a fire that swept across England. His sons, led by the ruthless Ivar the Boneless and the fearless Bjorn Ironside, formed the great heathen army. It was the largest Viking force England had ever seen. They descended on Northumbria with fury. Towns burned. Kings were slaughtered. And when they captured King Aella, Ragnar's executioner, they made him suffer a death as brutal as the sagas could imagine, the blood eagle. The prophecy was fulfilled. Ragnar's sons had avenged their father. His spirit lived on through their conquest. Ragnar Lothbrok's story did not end with his death. It spread across the world, carried in sagas, poems, and whispers around the fire. To the Norse, he was a hero. To his enemies, he was a terror. To historians, he remains an enigma. Was Ragnar one man? Or many leaders blended into one name? Perhaps we will never know. But the legend survives. Because Ragnar Lothbrok was more than a Viking. He was the embodiment of an age. A man who defied kings, defied death, and carved his destiny into eternity. And even now, over 1,000 years later, his story still commands us to listen. If you enjoyed this journey through Viking history, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who loves epic stories. And tell us in the comments, what do you think? Was Ragnar a real man, or a legend too powerful to be contained by history? Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the past that still shapes our world today.